26F always believed that family was supposed to be a safety net. For most of my life, I was the one holding the net for my older sister, Clara. She was a whirlwind of chaos, a storm of bad decisions and frantic apologies that I was always expected to clean up. Our parents called it helping. I called it enabling. But I did it anyway, because that's what you do for family. Or so I thought. The day my entire world shifted started like any other Tuesday. I was working from my small apartment, trying to meet a deadline, when my phone buzzed with Clara's name. I sighed, knowing it wouldn't be a simple chat. It never was. "Chloe, thank God you answered," she said, her voice a frantic whisper. "I am in a huge jam. A massive one." I leaned back in my chair, already feeling tired. "What is it this time, Clara?" "I just need you to do me a tiny favor. A really, really small one," she pleaded. "I have to run a few errands and I can't take the kids. It will only be for a couple of hours. 3 at the most. I swear." I hesitated. Her few errands had a habit of turning into all-day ordeals. Her couple of hours could mean I wouldn't see her again until long after the sun had set. And she had 5 children. 5. Ranging from 10-year-old Leo down to 2-year-old Mila. My one-bedroom apartment was not equipped for that kind of joyful chaos. "I don't know, Clara," I said slowly. "I have a lot of work to do today." "Please, Chloe, please," she begged, and I could hear the fake sob she always used when she was trying to get her way. "It's really important. It's about getting us back on our feet. You know how hard things have been. This could change everything for us." That was her go-to line. Everything was always about to change. A new job prospect, a new budget plan, a new promise to be better. I had heard it 100 times before, but the desperation in her voice felt a little different this time. A little sharper. I felt a familiar pang of guilt. She was a single mom struggling to raise 5 kids. The least I could do was help her for a few hours. "Okay," I relented. "A few hours. But Clara, you have to be back by 5. I have a meeting." "I will be, I promise. Thank you, thank you, thank you," she chirped, her tone instantly lighter. "We're 5 minutes away." She hung up before I could say another word. I pushed my laptop aside and started preparing for the incoming storm. I pulled out the box of old toys I kept for their visits. I checked my fridge to see what I could possibly make for lunch for a small army. It was never enough. True to her word, she was at my door 5 minutes later. The 5 kids tumbled out of her minivan like a clown car, all talking at once. Leo, the oldest, gave me a small, weary smile. He was used to this. The twins, 8-year-old Ava and Noah, immediately started bickering over who got to play with my tablet first. 4-year-old Maya clung to her mother's leg, and little Mila had her thumb stuck in her mouth, her eyes wide and uncertain. Clara didn't even come inside. She herded them toward my door, kissed Mila's forehead with a loud smack, and looked at me. "You're a lifesaver, Chloe. Seriously, I'll be back before you know it." "Where are you going, Mom?" Leo asked, his voice quiet. "Just errands." "Sweetie," Clara said, not quite meeting his eyes. "Be good for your Aunt Chloe." She gave me a quick, tight hug. It felt strange, almost formal. Then she turned and practically ran back to her car. She didn't look back. She just got in, started the engine, and drove away. I watched the minivan turn the corner and disappear. A strange feeling settled in the pit of my stomach. It felt like watching something end. I shook it off and turned to the kids. "All right, everyone, inside. Who wants a snack?" The first few hours were manageable. The kids were surprisingly calm, almost subdued. They watched a movie, played with the old toys, and ate the sandwiches I made for them. I managed to get a little bit of work done with my laptop balanced on the kitchen counter, the sound of cartoon characters filling the air. 4 o'clock came, then 5. My meeting was supposed to start at 5:30. I started to get anxious. I called Clara's phone. It rang and rang, then went to voicemail. "Hey, Clara," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "It's almost 5:30. Just wondering where you are. Call me back." I sent a text. Hey, need you to come get the kids. My meeting is starting. No reply. 5:30 passed. I had to email my boss and reschedule my meeting, blaming a sudden family issue. He was understanding, but I felt a hot flush of embarrassment. This was exactly what I had been afraid of. 6 o'clock, 7. The kids started to get restless. I'm hungry, Noah announced. When is Mom coming home? Soon, I said, the word feeling like a lie in my mouth. How about we order a pizza? That cheered them up temporarily. We ate pizza on the floor of my living room. As the evening wore on, their energy started to fade, replaced by a deep, weary sadness. Mila started crying, a quiet, hiccuping sob that wouldn't stop. I want Mommy, she wailed, burying her face in my shoulder. I held her tight, rocking her back and forth. I felt a surge of anger at Clara. How could she do this? How could she be so thoughtless? I tried calling her again, straight to voicemail. I texted again. Clara, this isn't funny. Where are you? Your kids are asking for you. The little checkmark on my phone showed the message had been delivered, but there was no indication that she had read it. By 9 o'clock, all 5 children were exhausted. I didn't have 5 beds. I didn't even have 1 extra bed. I laid down blankets and pillows on my living room floor, making a giant makeshift bed. The twins fell asleep almost instantly. Maya was overtired and cried for a half hour before finally drifting off. Mila wouldn't leave my side, so I carried her into my bedroom and laid her down on the other side of my bed. Leo was the last one awake. He sat on the edge of the couch, staring at the front door. She's not coming back tonight, is she? He asked. His voice was flat, without any emotion. It was the voice of a child who had been disappointed too many times. I looked at his small, serious face, and my heart broke. I wanted to lie. I wanted to tell him that his mom was just running late, that she would be here in the morning to kiss him good morning. But I couldn't. I don't know, Leo, I said softly. I've been trying to call her. Her phone must be off. He nodded slowly, not looking at me. She does that sometimes. That little sentence sent a chill down my spine. This wasn't just a one-time thing. This was a pattern that this 10-year-old boy knew all too well. He finally lay down on the pallet I had made for him and turned his back to me. I knew he wasn't sleeping. He was just waiting. We both were. I couldn't sleep. I sat on my couch in the dark, my phone in my hand, staring at the screen. I called her phone every 15 minutes. Voicemail. 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 I called our parents. My mom answered, her voice thick with sleep. Chloe, what's wrong? It's after midnight. It's Clara, I said, my voice shaking with a mixture of anger and fear. She dropped the kids off this afternoon and she never came back. I can't reach her. There was a pause on the other end of the line. I heard my dad murmur something in the background. Then my mom sighed, a long, weary sound that I had heard my whole life. It was the Clara sigh. Oh, Chloe, she said. You know how she is. She probably just got caught up. Maybe her phone died. Don't worry so much. She's a grown woman. Mom, she left her 5 children with me, I said, my voice rising. She said it would be a few hours. It's been 10 hours. That's not just getting caught up. Well, what do you want me to do? She asked, her tone defensive. I'm sure there's a perfectly good explanation. She's under a lot of stress. You need to be a little more understanding of her situation. I felt a familiar wave of hopelessness wash over me. They would always defend her. They would always make excuses for her. I was just the reliable one, the one who was expected to pick up the pieces without complaint. Her situation? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. What about her kids' situation? They're sleeping on my floor because their mother disappeared. Don't be so dramatic, my mom snapped. She will call in the morning. You'll see. Just get some sleep. You're overreacting. She hung up. I stared at my phone in disbelief. Overreacting. My sister had abandoned her children, and I was overreacting. I felt a cold knot of dread form in my stomach. Something was very, very wrong. This wasn't just another one of Clara's irresponsible moments. This was different. I didn't sleep at all that night. I just sat there, listening to the quiet breathing of the 5 children scattered around my apartment, and I waited. The sun came up, casting a pale light into the living room. Clara still hadn't called. She hadn't texted. She was just gone. The next morning was chaos. The kids woke up confused and cranky. "Is Mom here?" was the first question from Ava. I had to tell them no. Mila started crying again. I had to get the older 3 ready for school, but they didn't have their uniforms or their homework. "My spelling test is today," Noah said, his lower lip trembling. "All my books are at home." "It's okay," I said, trying to sound calm and in control. "I'll write a note for your teachers. We'll figure it out." I was rummaging through their backpacks looking for anything that might help. A teacher's contact number, a school schedule, anything. In Leo's bag, tucked behind a crumpled history textbook, I found a large manila folder. It wasn't a school folder. It was thick and heavy. My fingers trembled as I opened it. The papers inside were not schoolwork. They were legal documents. Page after page of dense, official-looking text. My eyes scanned the words, trying to make sense of them. Agreement of sale. Property disclosure statement. Deed transfer. And then I saw the address. It was Clara's address, and I saw the names. The seller, Clara, the buyer, a name I didn't recognize. My heart started pounding in my chest. I flipped to the last page. There it was. Clara's signature, dated yesterday. The day she had dropped the kids off to run a few errands. I sank onto the couch, the papers clutched in my hand. It couldn't be. She wouldn't. She couldn't have. Sold her house? The house the kids had grown up in? Where would they live? My mind raced, trying to put the pieces together. The frantic phone call. The desperate plea for a favor. The way she had practically fled from my door. The strange, formal hug. It all clicked into place with a sickening thud. The errands weren't errands. They were a lie. A cover story. She had been closing the sale on her house. But why? And where did she go? And why would she leave the kids? My phone buzzed, making me jump. I looked at the screen, my heart leaping with a desperate hope that it was Clara, ready to explain everything. But it wasn't. It was a number I didn't recognize. I answered it, my voice weak. "Hello? Is this Chloe?" A woman's voice asked. It was warm and familiar, but I couldn't quite place it. "Yes, this is she," I replied. "Oh, good. This is Martha Gable. I'm your sister Clara's next-door neighbor," she said. "I hope I'm not bothering you, dear. I got your number from the emergency contact list Clara gave me a while back." "Mrs. Gable," I said, my mind reeling. "No, you're not bothering me. Is everything okay?" "Well, that's what I was calling to ask you," she said, her voice full of concern. "I saw the strangest thing last night. A moving truck came to Clara's house. It was very late after 10 o'clock. They loaded up the whole house, every last stick of furniture. I thought it was so odd, doing a move in the middle of the night like that. I felt the air leave my lungs. A moving truck? I whispered. Yes, dear. And then, a little while later, a fancy car pulled up. A man got out, and Clara came out of the house with a suitcase. She got in the car with him, and they drove away. I didn't get a good look at him, but she didn't have the children with her. I was so worried. I thought maybe they were with you. My hand holding the phone started to shake. The papers on my lap suddenly felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds. She hadn't just sold the house. She had emptied it. She had packed a bag. She had gotten into a car with a strange man and left. She left. She wasn't coming back. The realization hit me not like a wave, but like a building collapsing on top of me. She had planned this. She had sold her house, packed her belongings, and abandoned her 5 children. She had used me as a convenient, unsuspecting babysitter for the first leg of her escape. The errands were a lie to get rid of her kids. The couple of hours was a lie to get me to agree. Her entire life, the one she presented to us, was a lie. "Chloe, are you still there, dear?" Mrs. Gable asked, her voice laced with worry. "Yes," I managed to choke out. "Yes, they're with me. They're safe." "Oh, thank heavens," she said with a sigh of relief. I was just so worried when I saw her leave without them. It just didn't seem right. It wasn't right. It was a monstrous, unthinkable betrayal. I ended the call with Mrs. Gable, promising to keep in touch. I sat there in the silent apartment. The sound of the kids getting dressed in the other room, a dull roar in my ears. I looked at their faces, one by one. Leo, so serious and old before his time. The twins, still innocent enough to think this was a big sleepover. Maya, who just wanted her blanket. And Mila, who just wanted her mommy. A cold, hard fury began to build inside me, pushing past the shock and the grief. It was a clean, sharp anger that cleared my head. She was not going to get away with this. I didn't know how, and I didn't know what I was going to do, but I made a silent promise to those 5 sleeping children. I would not let their mother destroy their lives and just walk away. The game had changed. She had made a catastrophic mistake. She thought I was just the quiet, helpful little sister. She had no idea what I was capable of. The first thing I had to do was deal with the immediate crisis. 5 children, no school clothes, no food for more than a day, and a job I was now neglecting. I called my boss, Mr. Henderson. I hated doing it, but I had no choice. "Mr. Henderson," I started, my voice more stable than I felt. "I have a very serious family emergency. I'm not going to be able to come in today. I'm not sure about the rest of the week." He was quiet for a moment. "Is everyone all right, Chloe?" "No," I said honestly, "but they will be. I just need some time to handle things." "Take the time you need," he said, and the kindness in his voice almost made me cry. "Just keep me updated." I hung up, feeling a small measure of relief. At least my job was secure for now. Next, I had to deal with the school situation. I wrote 5 separate notes, one for each of the school-age children's teachers, explaining that there was a family emergency and that I would be their temporary guardian. I tried to keep it vague but official. Getting them all out the door was an ordeal. They were emotional and confused. Ava cried because her shoes were at home. Noah was convinced he would get in trouble for not having his homework. Leo was silent, his face a stony mask. I knelt in front of him before we left. "Leo, I know this is really hard," I said softly, "but I need you to be strong for your brother and sisters today. Can you do that for me?" He just nodded, not looking at me. The trust he had in adults was probably shattered. I couldn't blame him. After dropping them off at their respective schools, I drove straight to Clara's house. I needed to see it for myself. The "sold" sign was like a slap in the face. It was real. I walked up to the front door and tried the handle. Locked. I peered through the windows. Mrs. Gable was right. The house was a hollow shell. Every room was empty, echoing with the ghosts of the life that had been lived there. There were faint squares on the walls where pictures used to hang. Scuff marks on the floor where the sofa used to be. It was like the entire family had been erased. I went next door and knocked on Mrs. Gable's door. She opened it immediately, her face etched with concern. "Oh, Chloe, you poor thing," she said, pulling me into a hug. Come in, come in." I sat at her kitchen table while she made me a cup of tea. "She really did it," I said, my voice hollow. "She just left them." "I can't believe it," Mrs. Gable said, shaking her head. "I knew she was having a hard time, but this is something else. She always talked about how much she loved those children." "She had a funny way of showing it," I said bitterly. "She mentioned a new fellow," Mrs. Gable offered, sitting down across from me. for the past month or so. Said he was going to solve all her problems. Wealthy, she said. Lived out of state. She was always on the phone with him, laughing and whispering. A man. A wealthy man. It was starting to make a horrible kind of sense. Clara had always been obsessed with money and status. She hated the struggle of her life. She must have seen this man as her ticket out. A ticket that didn't include 5 children. Did you ever see him? I asked. Only once, briefly, she said. He picked her up one evening last week, drove a very expensive-looking black sports car. He didn't get out. She just ran out and jumped in. She seemed so happy, giddy. I felt a fresh wave of nausea. She was giddy while planning to abandon her kids. The tea sat untouched in front of me. I thanked Mrs. Gable for her help and for watching out. Her kindness was a stark contrast to the cold indifference I had gotten from my own mother. Speaking of whom, I knew I had to call them again. I had to make them understand the reality of the situation. I drove to a nearby park and sat in my car, steeling myself for the conversation. I dialed my mom's number. "Chloe, I was just about to call you," she said, her voice chipper. "Did you hear from Clara? I told you she'd turn up." "No, Mom, I haven't heard from her," I said, my voice flat and cold. "But I know where she went. She sold her house. She packed up everything and she left with some man. She abandoned her children." There was a dead silence on the line. I could hear her breathing. Sold the house? That can't be right. She would have told us. Well, she didn't, I snapped. I'm looking at her empty house right now. Her neighbor saw her leave last night with a suitcase. The kids are with me, Mom. They have nothing. No clothes, no toys, nothing. Oh dear, my mom whispered. It was the first crack in her wall of denial. Oh my, your father is going to be so upset. Upset? I asked, my voice dripping with disbelief. I'm a little past upset, Mom. I have 5 kids who have just been abandoned by their mother. I need help. I need you and Dad to step up. I heard my dad take the phone. His voice was gruff. Now, Chloe, let's not jump to conclusions. There has to be an explanation for this. The explanation is that she sold her house and ran off with a rich guy. I practically yelled into the phone. What part of that is a conclusion? It's a fact. You need to calm down, he said, his voice taking on a stern tone. Panicking isn't going to help anyone. You're the one with the kids right now, so you need to handle it. We'll try to get in touch with Clara. Handle it? I repeated, my voice dangerously low. You're her parents. They're your grandchildren. And you're telling me to handle it? You've always been the responsible one, he said, as if that was a compliment. We know you can manage, just for a little while until we figure this out. I felt something inside me break. The last thread of hope that my parents would ever be the support system I needed just snapped. They weren't going to help. They were going to hide behind their denial and their disappointment and leave me to deal with the fallout. Just like always. Fine, I said, my voice devoid of all emotion. I will handle it. But don't you ever call me the responsible one again. From this moment on, I'm just the only one. I hung up the phone before they could respond. I was on my own. Truly and completely on my own. But as I sat there, the anger began to solidify into something else. A plan. A cold, clear, and methodical plan. Clara had left a trail. The house sale. The money. She thought she had gotten away clean, but she had made a mistake. She left behind the one person who knew how to clean up her messes. And this time, I was going to clean it up in a way she would never forget. My first step was to get legal advice. I wasn't just a babysitter anymore. I was the de facto guardian of 5 children. I needed to know my rights and my options. I spent the afternoon researching family law attorneys in my city. I found one with excellent reviews who specialized in custody and child abandonment cases. I called his office and managed to get a consultation for the next morning. That evening, after picking up the kids from school, I had to go on a massive shopping trip. I used my emergency credit card, the one I kept for true disasters. This certainly qualified. I bought them all new clothes, pajamas, toothbrushes, and a few toys to make them feel a little more at home. The cost was staggering, and I felt a knot of anxiety tighten in my stomach, but I pushed it down. I would deal with the money later. Right now, I had to focus on the children's well-being. They were subdued during dinner. The reality of the situation was starting to sink in. "Are we going to live with you now?" Ava asked, her voice small. "For a little while," I said gently. "We're going to be okay." "I don't like it here," Noah grumbled. "Your apartment is too small." "I know it is," I said. "We'll make it work." Leo didn't say anything. He just pushed his food around his plate. Later that night, after the younger ones were asleep, I found him sitting by the window, looking out at the city lights. "What are you thinking about?" I asked, sitting next to him. "Is she with that man?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. My blood ran cold. "What man, Leo?" "The one she was always talking to on the phone," he said. "Mark. She said he was going to take us all on a big vacation soon. She said he was rich." Mark. I had a name. It was the first real piece of the puzzle. "She told you about him?" He shook his head. "I heard her. She would go into her room and talk for hours. She was always laughing. She told him she couldn't wait for her new life to start." A new life. Her words, not just my assumption. This was more calculated than I could have ever imagined. She had been feeding her children lies while she planned her escape. "Leo," I said, my voice firm but gentle. "Your mom has made some very bad choices, but I want you to know something. This is not your fault. It's not any of your faults. You are good kids and you are loved. And I am not going anywhere." He looked at me for the first time all day, his eyes full of a deep, aching sadness. He didn't cry. He just nodded, a single, jerky motion. Then he went to his spot on the floor and lay down. The next morning, I met with the lawyer, Mr. Davies. He was a kind, no-nonsense man in his 50s. I laid out the entire story, from Clara's phone call to the empty house to the conversation with Leo. I showed him the sale documents I had found in Leo's backpack. He listened patiently, taking notes. When I was finished, he looked at me with a serious expression. "This is a clear case of child abandonment," he said. "And you, as the current caregiver and next of kin, have significant legal standing." "What can I do?" I asked. "First, we need to file for emergency temporary custody," he explained. "This will give you the legal authority to make decisions for the children, enroll them in school properly, and consent to medical care. Given the circumstances, a judge will grant it almost immediately." "And Clara?" I asked. "Can we find her?" "We can," he said. "But more importantly, we can stop her from accessing the money from the house sale." My head snapped up. "What do you mean?" "The proceeds from the sale of a primary residence, especially one where minor children live, are not just her personal piggy bank," he said, a grim smile on his face. "When she abandoned her dependents, she created a legal nexus between them and that asset. We can file an emergency motion to have the proceeds of the sale frozen and placed in escrow pending a family court hearing." I stared at him, my mind racing. Frozen. The money would be frozen. She wouldn't be able to touch it. "She ran off with a man because he was rich," I said, the pieces clicking together. "She probably told him she was coming with a lot of cash from the sale of her house." "Exactly," Mr. Davies said. "And when that cash doesn't materialize, her new life might not look so appealing anymore. To her, or to him." It was perfect. It was the perfect leverage. It wasn't just about punishment. It was about protecting the children's future. That money wasn't hers to run away with. It belonged to them. It was their home, their security, that she had sold. "Do it," I said, my voice filled with a newfound determination. "Freeze it. Freeze every last cent." "I'll get the paperwork filed this afternoon," he said. "Now we need to find her. You said the boy's name was Mark?" Yes. Leo heard her say it on the phone, I confirmed. And she has a social media presence? She used to, I said, but she deleted her accounts about a month ago. Said it was too much drama. Now I knew the real reason. She was erasing her tracks. That's okay, Mr. Davies said. People like this are rarely as clever as they think. She'll pop up somewhere, and when she does, we'll be ready. I left his office feeling like I could breathe for the first time in 2 days. I had a plan. I had an ally. And I had a weapon. Clara thought she had all the power. She was about to find out how wrong she was. That night, I called my best friend, Maya. She was the only person besides Mr. Davies who I knew would be completely on my side. I told her everything. She was silent for a long time after I finished. I'm on my way over, she finally said, and I'm bringing wine. An hour later, we were sitting on my crowded living room floor, the kids asleep in their makeshift beds around us. Maya looked around at the scattered toys and blankets, her eyes full of sympathy. I can't believe she did this to you, Chloe, she said, shaking her head. To them. I can, I said grimly. I just didn't want to. I've been making excuses for her my whole life. My parents still are. Forget them, Maya said fiercely. They're part of the problem. So what's the plan? You said the lawyer is freezing her money? Yes, I said, a small, cold smile touching my lips. She won't be able to access it. Good, Maya said, taking a sip of wine. That's the first step. Now we find her. What did you say the guy's name was? Mark? Yes, and Mrs. Gable said he drives a fancy black sports car. Maya pulled out her laptop. Okay, this is a long shot, but let's see. We don't have a last name, we don't know where he lives. But we know he's connected to Clara. For the next 2 hours, we dove into the rabbit hole of the internet. We searched for any trace of Clara that might have resurfaced. We looked through old tagged photos of her, trying to see if a mark ever appeared in the comments. Nothing. It was like she had vanished from the digital world. She was clever about covering her tracks, Maya admitted, frowning at her screen. But nobody is perfect. Then I remembered something. Wait, I said. About 2 months ago, she went on a business trip to a conference. She said it was for a multi-level marketing thing she was trying. She was gone for a weekend. She posted a few pictures from a hotel. Maya's fingers flew across the keyboard. Do you remember where? I think it was in Scottsdale, Arizona, I said. She was so excited about the sun. Maya found Clara's old, deactivated account and managed to find a cached version of the page. There they were. 3 pictures from the trip. One of a swimming pool, one of a cocktail, and one selfie of Clara, beaming, with a corner of a conference name badge visible on her shirt. Enhance, Maya said, doing her best impression of a detective from a TV show. She zoomed in on the photo. The badge was blurry, but we could just make out the name of the event. It was a wealth summit for entrepreneurs. A wealth summit, I said, rolling my eyes. Of course. This is good, Maya said, her excitement growing. This gives us a location and a date. Now we search for men named Mark who attended this summit. It was a tedious process. We searched social media hashtags for the event. We looked at the attendee lists that were sometimes posted online. We found dozens of Marks. We started going through them one by one, looking for a connection to Clara. After another hour, just as we were about to give up for the night, Maya gasped. Chloe, look at this. She turned her laptop toward me. It was a public Instagram profile. The name was Mark Peterson. The profile picture was a handsome, tanned man in his late 40s, leaning against a shiny black sports car. A Porsche. That's gotta be him, I whispered. We scrolled through his photos. He had a life of luxury. Pictures on a yacht, in front of a private jet, at expensive restaurants. His bio read, entrepreneur, investor, living life to the fullest. We kept scrolling back through the weeks. And then we found it. A picture posted the day after Clara's business trip. It was a group photo from the Wealth Summit. And standing in the back, right next to Mark Peterson, was my sister, Clara. She had her arm linked through his, and she was looking at him with an expression of pure adoration. "That's him," I said, my voice tight. "That's the man she left her children for." We scrolled further down his profile. He lived in Scottsdale, Arizona. He posted a picture just yesterday of a sunset over a mountain range. The caption read, "Enjoying the view with my special lady. A new chapter begins." My blood turned to ice. A new chapter. While her children were crying for her in my apartment, she was starting her new chapter. "We found her," Maya said, her voice a low whisper. "So, what now? Do you call her?" I thought about it for a moment. I thought about screaming at her over the phone. I thought about begging her to come home. But then I looked at the sleeping faces of my nieces and nephews. Begging wouldn't work. Anger would just make her defensive. I needed to be smarter than that. I had the leverage. Now I had to use it. "No," I said, closing Maya's laptop. "Not yet. Mr. Davies said the motion to freeze the funds would be filed today. I'm going to wait until I get confirmation that she can't touch the money. Then I'll make my move." Maya looked at me, a new respect in her eyes. "You've changed, Chloe." "She changed me," I replied. "She left me with 5 kids and a credit card bill. She's about to find out what a good investment I am." The next 2 days were a blur of logistics and quiet planning. I got the official notification from Mr. Davies. The emergency custody order was granted. I was now the legal temporary guardian of Leo, Ava, Noah, Maya, and Mila. The piece of paper felt both incredibly heavy and immensely empowering. He also confirmed that the court had approved the motion to freeze the proceeds from the house sale. The money, over $200,000, was now locked away in an escrow account, inaccessible to anyone without a court order. My weapon was armed and ready. Life in my apartment had found a new, chaotic rhythm. I set up an assembly line for breakfast in the morning. I coordinated drop-offs and pickups from 3 different schools. I spent my evenings making massive dinners, helping with homework I barely understood, and reading bedtime stories until my voice was hoarse. It was exhausting, overwhelming, and expensive. But amidst the chaos, something unexpected was happening. We were becoming a unit. A strange, broken, but resilient little family. The kids were slowly adjusting. The crying spells became less frequent. They started to laugh at my bad jokes. Ava and Noah even started helping me with the dishes without being asked. Leo remained the most withdrawn, but I would occasionally catch him watching me. A flicker of something other than sadness in his eyes. He saw me showing up, day after day. That was more than his own mother had done. My parents called a few times. Their tone had shifted from dismissive to worried. "Have you heard from her, Chloe?" my mom would ask, her voice trembling. "No," I'd reply, keeping my voice cool and distant. "We're just so worried about her," she'd say. "I'm worried about her 5 children," I would counter, and the conversation would quickly end. They offered no real help, no financial support, no offer to take the kids for a weekend. They were paralyzed by their shame and disappointment in Clara, and it made them useless. I stopped expecting anything from them. On the 3rd day after finding Mark's profile, I finally got what I had been waiting for. A text message from a number I didn't recognize. "Hey, Chloe, it's me. Sorry things got so crazy. It's been a whirlwind. I need you to watch the kids for just a little while longer. I'll send you some money for them soon, I promise." It was Clara. The tone of the text was so casual, so dismissive, it made my blood boil. A whirlwind, like she was on a fun vacation. A little while longer. She still thought she was in control. She still thought I was the compliant little sister who would just do as she was told. I took a deep breath, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. This was the moment. The first shot in the war she had started. I had to play it perfectly. I typed back a simple, direct question. "Where is the money from the house, Clara? The sale closed 3 days ago." I didn't accuse her. I didn't yell. I just asked a question that would let her know that I knew. I hit send and watched the 3 little dots appear and disappear. She was typing a response. Then she stopped. A full minute passed. The dots appeared again. My phone rang. It was her. I let it ring 3 times just to make her wait. Then I answered, putting it on speaker for Maya, who had come over to be my moral support. How did you know about that? Clara's voice was sharp, laced with panic. The casual, breezy tone from her text was gone. I kept my own voice calm, almost bored. You left the sale documents in Leo's backpack, Clara. It wasn't hard to figure out. There was a choked sound on her end. You went through my things? You abandoned your children in my apartment. I shot back, my voice like ice. I think that gives me the right to look for answers. So I'll ask again. Where is the money? It's being transferred. It takes a few days, she said quickly, a little too quickly. That money is for my new start. It's for me. Your new start? I repeated, letting the words hang in the air. What about the 5 children you left behind? What's their new start? Sleeping on my living room floor? Wearing clothes I had to buy on a credit card because you took everything? I was going to send money, she insisted, her voice rising. Mark and we have a plan. He's going to help. He has resources. Once we're settled, we were going to figure out something for the kids. Figure out something, I echoed, my voice dripping with contempt. They're not a piece of furniture you left behind, Clara. They're your children, and you abandoned them. You don't understand, she shrieked. I had no choice. I was drowning. The debt, the house, the bills. I couldn't do it anymore. Mark gave me a way out. A chance to finally be happy. A chance to be happy, I said quietly. At their expense. He loves me, she cried, as if that excused everything. He's going to take care of me. Is he? I asked, my voice dangerously soft. Does he know that the money you were supposed to bring to this new life isn't coming? There was a dead silence on the other end of the line. I could almost hear her mind racing, trying to process what I had just said. What are you talking about? She stammered. This was it. The moment of impact. I'm talking about the $212,000 from the sale of your house, I said, my voice clear and steady. I spoke to a lawyer, Clara. He filed a motion on behalf of your abandoned children. A judge granted it this morning. The money is frozen. It's in an escrow account. And you can't touch it. Not 1 single cent. A strangled gasp came through the phone. It was a sound of pure, unadulterated horror. The sound of her perfect escape plan crumbling into dust. You can't do that, she whispered, her voice trembling. You can't. That's my money. No, Clara, I said, and for the first time I let the full force of my anger into my voice. It's their money. It was their home you sold. It's their security you cashed in for a fantasy with a rich boyfriend. And I am not going to let you steal it from them. You're jealous, she screamed, her voice cracking. You've always been jealous of me. You're trying to ruin my life. Ruin your life? I laughed, a cold, harsh sound. You're the one who abandoned 5 children. You're the one who sold your house and ran away in the middle of the night. I'm just the one holding you accountable. For the first time in your life. I could hear a man's voice in the background. What's going on, babe? What's she talking about? What money? It was Mark. He was listening. This was even better than I had hoped. Give me the phone, the man's voice said, firm and commanding. There was a rustle, and then a deep, smooth voice spoke. This is Mark. Who am I speaking with? He sounded calm, like a businessman handling a minor dispute. You're speaking with Chloe, I said, matching his calm tone. The sister of the woman who just abandoned her 5 children with me. Now, let's not use such inflammatory language, he said smoothly. Clara is just very stressed. She needed a break. She was planning on arranging for the children's care. Was she? I asked. Because it looks to me like she was planning on taking the money from her house sale and starting a new life with you in Scottsdale, leaving me to pick up the pieces. Am I wrong? There was a slight pause. She has some money coming to her, yes. That's for her to decide how to use. Well, I'm afraid there's been a change in plans, I said, enjoying this far more than I should have. As I just explained to Clara, that money is legally frozen by a court order. It's being held in escrow for the care of the minor children she abandoned. She has no access to it. It's gone. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. The smooth, confident businessman was gone. I could almost hear the gears turning in his head. The fun, spontaneous woman he'd met at a conference had suddenly turned into a broke, desperate mother of 5 with massive legal problems. Frozen? He finally said, his voice stripped of all its earlier charm. It was flat and cold. What do you mean, frozen? She told me she had that money clear. She lied, I said simply. She has a habit of doing that. You're lying, Clara shrieked in the background. She's a vindictive liar, Mark. Don't listen to her. Am I? I asked calmly. Then try to access the funds. Go ahead. Call the title company. Call your bank. You'll find out soon enough that I'm telling the truth. Another long, tense silence. I could hear Mark breathing heavily. The fantasy was over. The new chapter had just been slammed shut. What do you want? He asked, his voice tight with anger. He wasn't talking to me as a potential family member anymore. He was talking to me as a problem he needed to solve. What I want is for Clara to face her responsibilities, I said, my voice hard as steel. So I'm giving her 2 options. Option 1, she gets on a plane and is back here within 24 hours to deal with the mess she made. We will sort out custody and child support through the courts, like adults. And option 2? He asked. Option 2, I said, letting the words sink in. She stays there in Scottsdale with you with no money. And the moment that 24-hour window closes, I walk into a police station and file a report for felony child abandonment. I will also file for full permanent custody. Her new start will begin with an arrest warrant and the complete and total loss of her children. And you, Mark, will be named as a person of interest who aided and abetted her in abandoning her children. How does that sound for your living life to the fullest bio? A string of curses came from Mark's end. Clara was sobbing hysterically in the background. You can't do this to me, Chloe, she wailed. You can't. I already have, I said. The clock is ticking. Clara, 24 hours, your choice. I hung up the phone. My hand was shaking, but not from fear. It was from the adrenaline, the power of finally turning the tables on her. Maya was staring at me, her mouth wide open. Chloe, she whispered. That was incredible. You were incredible. I sank onto the couch, the fight draining out of me, replaced by a deep, weary sense of finality. I just want this to be over, I said. I just want the kids to be safe. They are, Maya said, putting a hand on my shoulder. They're safer with you than they ever were with her. We sat in silence, waiting. I didn't know what Clara would do. Part of me thought her pride was so strong that she would call my bluff, but I knew I wasn't bluffing. If she didn't show up, I would follow through on every single threat. The next few hours were the longest of my life. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart leaped into my throat. Just after midnight, I got a one-line email from an airline. It was a flight confirmation. A one-way ticket from Scottsdale to my city, arriving at 10 a.m. the next morning. The passenger's name was Clara. Mark had bought her a ticket home. He wasn't just kicking her out. He was shipping her back to the problem he wanted no part of. Her fantasy life had lasted less than a week. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt tired. The confrontation was over, but the real battle was just beginning. She was coming back. Not out of love for her children, but because she was out of options. She was coming back defeated, angry, and broke. And I had to be ready for whatever came next. The morning Clara was due to arrive, I was a bundle of nerves. I asked Maya to come over to help with the kids so I could prepare. I didn't want them to be there when she showed up. I didn't know what state she would be in, and I needed to protect them from any more of her drama. Maya took them to the park, promising to keep them out for most of the day. I also called Mr. Davies. "She's on her way back," I told him. "Her flight lands at 10. "Good," he said, his voice calm and professional. "That's the best possible outcome for the children. It means she's acknowledging her responsibilities, even if under duress. Now, what do you want to do when she arrives?" "I don't want to see her," I said honestly. "Not alone. I don't trust her. I don't want her in my apartment." "A wise decision," he said. "I suggest you don't engage with her directly at all. Let me handle it. I can meet her and serve her with the papers for the custody hearing. It's better to establish a formal boundary from the very beginning." The idea of having him as a shield was an immense relief. "You would do that?" "It's my job, Chloe," he said, "to protect you and the children's best interests." "Where should I tell her to go?" "She has no house to return to." We decided she would have to go to our parents' house. It was the only logical place. They had enabled her for years. They could deal with the immediate fallout of her return. Mr. Davies said he would have a process server meet her at the airport baggage claim. She would be served with the temporary custody order and a summons to appear in family court. There would be no dramatic reunion, no tearful confrontation at my door. Just cold, hard legal reality. At 10:30 a.m., my phone rang. It was Mr. Davies. "It's done," he said. She was served. She did not take it well, but she was informed that all communication regarding the children must now go through my office. She was also given your parents' address. "Thank you," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for everything." "You're the one doing the hard work, Chloe," he said. "Just focus on the kids. Let the legal system do its job." About an hour later, my mom called. She was sobbing. "Chloe, she's here. She just showed up in a taxi. She looks terrible. She said you ruined her life." I took a deep breath. "Mom, I'm not having this conversation with you right now. Clara made her choices. The consequences are hers to deal with." "But she has nowhere to go," my mom wailed. "She has nothing, just one suitcase." "She can stay with you and Dad," I said, my voice firm. "You've wanted to help her for years. Now's your chance." "But what about the children?" she asked. "The children are with me," I said. "They are safe and cared for. A court has granted me temporary custody. Clara will see them when a judge says she can, under conditions the court sets. This is not up for debate." I could hear my dad in the background, his voice low and angry. "You hear that, Martha? She's taking the kids." "I'm not taking them," I said, my patience wearing thin. "I'm protecting them, from their own mother. Something you two should have done a long time ago. Now I have to go. The kids will be home soon." I hung up, my heart pounding. I had finally stood up to them, to all of them. The feeling was terrifying and liberating all at once. When Maya brought the kids home, they were happy and tired from their day at the park. They didn't ask about their mom. For one blissful afternoon, they had just been kids. That night, as I was tucking Mila into her spot on my bed, she looked up at me with her big, serious eyes. "I love you, Auntie Chloe," she whispered, and wrapped her small arms around my neck. Tears sprang to my eyes. I hugged her tight. "I love you too, sweetie," I said. "So much." In that moment, all the stress, all the anger, all the fear just melted away. It didn't matter how hard it was. It didn't matter what Clara or my parents said. This was my family now, and I would do anything to protect it. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of legal proceedings and adjustments to our new life. Clara, living with my parents, was a nightmare for them. They called me constantly, complaining about her attitude, her refusal to look for a job, her constant accusations that they had always loved me more. "She just lies in her old bedroom and cries all day," my mom told me during one call. "She says you and that Mark fellow conspired against her." "That's nice, Mom," I said, my voice flat. I have to go. Noah has a soccer game. I refused to be drawn into their drama. My world was centered around the 5 children who depended on me. With the help of Mr. Davies, we established a clear path forward. The court ordered a formal custody evaluation. Clara was required to find a job, secure stable housing, and attend therapy and parenting classes before she could even be considered for unsupervised visits. The money from the house sale became a major point of contention. Clara's court-appointed lawyer argued that she was entitled to it, that she needed it to get back on her feet. Mr. Davies argued that the money was a marital asset that had been converted to cash, and as the children's home had been sold, the proceeds should be placed in a trust for their care and future. The judge agreed with Mr. Davies. The entire sum was put into a protected trust. I was named the trustee. The funds could only be used for the children's health, education, and welfare. It could be used to help us move into a larger home, to pay for their school supplies, for summer camp, for college. It was their future, secured. When Clara found out, she had a complete meltdown in the courthouse hallway. "You stole my money!" she screamed at me from across the lobby. "You stole my life!" I didn't even look at her. I just took Leo's hand and kept walking. He squeezed my hand back. That was all the validation I needed. With the trust fund secured, our lives began to change for the better. I was able to break the lease on my tiny apartment and rent a 4-bedroom house in a good school district. For the first time in months, the kids each had their own bed. We had a backyard to play in. We had a dining room table where we could all eat together. It wasn't easy. I was now a single mother of 5, practically overnight. I had to scale back my work, taking on freelance projects I could do from home late at night. The budget was tight, even with the trust to help with major expenses. There were tantrums and sibling squabbles and moments when I felt completely and utterly overwhelmed. But there was also so much joy. There were movie nights with popcorn, and board game tournaments, and trips to the library. I taught Ava how to ride a bike. I helped Noah build a volcano for his science fair project. I read chapter books to Leo every night before bed. We were healing, together. Clara, on the other hand, was spiraling. Without the big payout she had been expecting, she was forced to get a minimum wage job at a fast food restaurant. My parents, finally fed up with her behavior, told her she had to find her own place. She ended up renting a tiny, rundown room in a shared house on the other side of town. The court-ordered visits started. They were for 2 hours every other Saturday at a supervised visitation center. The first few times, the kids were hesitant. Clara tried to play the victim, crying and telling them how much she missed them and how unfair I was being. But the kids were smarter than she gave them credit for. They had lived through the chaos. They remembered the broken promises and the neglect, and they saw the stability and love I was providing. "Why are you so sad?" "Mom?" Ava asked her during one visit. "Aunt Chloe isn't sad." After a few months, Clara started missing visits. She'd call the center with a flimsy excuse, or sometimes she just wouldn't show up at all. It hurt the kids at first, another small cut from a long series of betrayals. But each time it happened, they grew a little more resilient. They began to rely on her less and less for their happiness. One day, about a year after she had first left, I received a package in the mail. It was a thick legal envelope with no return address. Inside was a set of documents. Clara was relinquishing her parental rights. All of them. She was walking away for good this time. She didn't want the fight anymore. She didn't want the responsibility. Tucked inside the papers was a handwritten note. It was the first direct communication I'd had from her in almost a year. "You win," it said. "You took everything from me. My money, my new life, my kids. I hope you're happy. You ruined my life." I read the note, and I didn't feel anger or sadness. I just felt a profound sense of pity for her. She still didn't get it. She still thought this was a game that one of us had to win. I walked into the living room, where the kids were all piled on the couch, arguing over a video game. Leo looked up and saw the papers in my hand. "What's that?" he asked, his voice cautious. I sat down with them and explained what the papers meant. I told them that their mother had decided she couldn't be their mom anymore, and that she was asking for me to be their mom in every way. They were quiet for a long time, processing it. "So, you're our real mom now?" Maya asked, her little 4-year-old mind trying to grasp the concept. "I've always been your real aunt," I said, smiling through the tears that were starting to form. "And now, if it's okay with you guys, I'd be honored to be your real mom, too." A slow smile spread across Leo's face. "Okay," he said. "I'd like that." One by one, they all agreed. There were no tears for the mother they had lost, only hugs for the one they had found. I picked up my phone and looked at the picture of Clara's note I had taken. I thought about all the things I could say to her. I could tell her that she hadn't given me a ruined life, but a full one. I could tell her that happiness wasn't something you ran away to find, but something you built, day by day, with the people you love. But I didn't. She wouldn't understand. Instead, I just typed a short, simple reply to the text message she had sent me all those months ago, the one where she had accused me of ruining her life. I knew she probably wouldn't even see it, but I needed to say it for myself. "No, Clara," I wrote. "You didn't give me a ruined life. You gave me 5 new ones to build." I hit send, and then I blocked her number for good. I walked back to the living room where the sounds of my children laughing filled the house. The chaos was still there. The work was still hard, but my life was no longer quiet or empty. It was loud and messy and full of love. She thought she had left me with a burden. She had no idea she had left me with everything that mattered. The silence from her was the most peaceful sound I had ever heard. I had stopped being her sister, her helper, her safety net. I had become a mother, and I had never been happier.